Hey everybody, welcome to Sober City. My name is Seth and I am an alcoholic. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Actually, today is my birthday, which is crazy, 38 years old. Feeling pretty great. I just looked back at my birthday the last long while and never really appreciated it. Today feels pretty good. I'm happy, pretty happy. For a while there, I wasn't sure 38 was possible. So, man, pretty crazy to be thinking I'm doing a podcast about sobriety at 38 years old. You just never know what's in store for you. I'm happy to celebrate it with you in a way by you listening. I'm really thankful that you're willing to listen. This episode is with my incredible friend, Stephen D. This dude is just an awesome friend of mine, somebody that was there for me in the beginning. He actually was a client of mine years ago. Sold him a house a long while ago. Strangely enough, our paths crossed while he was maybe 90 days into his sobriety. I was just beginning mine. And we ended up grabbing some ice cream one night. And since then, he's just always been present. And he is so intelligent, so wise and articulate, just stoked to have crossed paths with him. And that's really what this sobriety has brought me, by being able to connect with really incredible people that have been able to walk into my life and walk alongside me. Pretty excited that you're able to meet him, hear what he has to say. I'm thankful that he was willing to do this with me and share his story and his perspective. His outlook on life and spirituality is really awesome. So thanks again for listening. And yeah, life is beautiful. Sobriety is worth it. Thank God for today. This is Sober City. Stephen, thank you for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome to Sober City. How long have you been sober?
I'm going on 2 years now. Not quite 2 years. June 8th, 23.
Almost 2 years, though.
Almost 2.
Congratulations.
I guess I can't say that till I make it, huh? One day at a time.
Yeah, let's slow it down a little bit here. What prompted you to make a change?
For me, my story, I think there was part of me that always realized that I would end up in some type of recovery. I used to kind of be proud of that. I had some foreknowledge or something. Looking back, it's just insanity that I continued to drink and drug for the number of years that I did. How did I get to the decision to cross that threshold? I heard it said best that your bottom is when you stop digging. I've heard it quite a bit in various circles, but I think I just stopped digging, man. I think I was 48 years old. I'd been doing it for probably 35 years. It was time to stop. I'd like to think that a lot of things in my past, like kids or a relationship or change of moving or things like that, would have spurred me to make that change, but it didn't. Just had too many scrapes with the law. I just came to the realization that I couldn't go on doing it anymore.
When you say that you had the foreknowledge that at some point you were going to need to get sober, did you kind of always realize that you had a propensity most of your life when it came to drugs and alcohol?
The problem for me is that I thought everybody was like me. I used to say, well, I don't trust somebody if they don't drink. You know, if they can't drink a whiskey, I can't trust that man. It's insanity. Because I didn't really realize that not everyone's an alcoholic, not everyone's a drug addict. And I just sort of assumed that everybody operated on the same wavelength that I did, and that if somebody went out and had 1 or 2 beers, they were preparing for something big the next day, or they had some reason. But I just assumed that everybody had that craving that I had. Because for me, there is no such thing as one. There's no such thing as a couple beers. It's 0 to 60 until it runs out or until I pass out. And my favorite drug was, what do you have? My favorite drink was more. I think that was a big mistake in perception that I had throughout my life. I didn't realize that I was different, that I had a disease, which I do. And that disease is alcoholism. And that disease is not being able to live in my own skin and be comfortable in my own skin. I was part of the 10% of our population that suffers from this disease.
What point in your life did you realize that you had a problem?
Well, I mean, a lot of people told me I had a problem, right? But they were wrong. There were a lot of points where somebody tried to sit me down with love and compassion in their heart and say, you have a problem. I never listened to that. I always thought I had it under control. And then I got to the point where I knew I had a problem, but I had it under control. And then I got to the point where, okay, I have a problem, but I'm going to turn it off at some point. When did I really internalize that I had a problem? I think it was meeting other people who have my disease and seeing that they overcame it. I really think that was it. When you're traveling in those circles, right? Every dive bar, man, if I went somewhere for work, I'd just find the nearest dive bar with just your bottom of the barrel drunks that are in there at 2 p.m. in the afternoon drinking. And so I surrounded myself with that. The disease feeds on the disease. We seek out other people who suffer from the same disease that we have because it makes it normal. It normalizes it. So honestly, man, I think I just got to the point where I met people who recognized the disease, dealt with the disease, or took steps to deal with the disease. And at that point, I think I said, this is a real problem that I need to address. I'm 48 years old. I'm on the back nine of life. I need to look at this honestly and deal with it.
Over time, you started meeting other people that had the same issue you had, and you felt like you connected with them in a way that you realized you need to make a change?
Yeah, I had gone into different groups at various times, but it never stuck. I never stuck with it. I can pinpoint experiences, right? Like 3-day hangovers. I can pinpoint experiences like weeks of binging, right, on drugs and alcohol and just not stopping. Like the train starts on Tuesday when my dealer shows up and doesn't end until I hop on a plane to leave town. I can pinpoint experiences like that accumulated, but I don't have this sort of aha moment where the light went off. I think I had that many times, right? I think I had it many times throughout my life, but what made it stick at 48 years old was seeing other people who were working a program, man. They were working on the solution. And that gave me hope, it gave me identification, it gave me community, and, you know, it sort of gave me role models, I think. So I think that's what sort of tipped it over the edge, right? Because I think I had many moments in my disease where I wanted to stop, and I couldn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so June 2023,
Yep.
you woke up one day and decided, I'm done. What did that feel like?
I had a lot of one-night stands with law enforcement, and that sort of precipitated the fall from this sort of delusion that I was living in, which is I was a functional alcoholic. I used to say that with pride, right? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That was a source of pride. I'm at a bar drinking with people. Well, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, but I'm a functional alcoholic. The finger would go up and make sure that I put that out there for my ego and for my pride and take pride in that, and that's insanity. Man, I was losing out on life. I would drink to the point, and I'm not talking about partying and going to clubs or whatever kids do nowadays, but I'm talking about like just drinking by myself and having a 3-day hangover, and that's a 4-day gap in my life. And I can't go on like this.
I can totally relate to the functioning alcoholic idea. I know when I was at my bottom, that was what I had said as well. As a matter of fact, I don't even think I really considered myself an alcoholic because I had never gotten a DUI, but not for lack of trying. It's just I never got caught. But still, we make these excuses, and that boils down to the manageability that I'm still functioning. I'm showing up to work. I haven't been fired. I haven't been arrested yet. As long as I'm functioning, this thing's not really a problem. But for you, you were realizing that you were missing out on life. You weren't living it to its fullest. How were you able to then continue to live life without assistance from those things that made you feel comfortable with yourself and with other people and with life?
It's really difficult. I had quite a track record, right? I mean, 48 years, and I probably had my first beer at 12, like my first drunk at 12, so 36 years. It became part of my identity. I was the guy who drank a lot. Was the guy who, for Christmas gifts, gets a bottle of whiskey from everybody, right? Because that's my identity. I would delude myself. I can hold my liquor and all that other stuff. And yeah, man, it was tough, right? So reaching that point where I'm like, all right, 48 years old, need to make a change. I'm just not comfortable in my skin. And I don't think I ever have been, right? I think that's one of the seeds of this disease, is that you don't feel part of. You don't feel connected to. You feel separate from, less than, just not comfortable in your own skin. I'd suffered from that since I can remember, since probably 4 years old. I remember this guy giving me a piece of advice one time, and he's like, you like that show Lost? And I'm like, no, I've never watched it. He's like, yeah, there's like 48 seasons. Go home, turn on Lost, watch it until you pass out. Pass out by being tired, not drinking, and just don't drink. That was the window, right? That gave me like a week of sobriety where I wasn't drinking. I was just watching the show mindlessly and just not drinking. And that opened the window long enough that physical sobriety could turn into something more, right? And then it turned into having the humility to reach out for help. Then things became a lot easier once I had a hand to hold on to and people to reach out to, people that I could look up to who weren't like big drinkers.
When I first got sober, I got plugged into Better Call Saul. That was my show. Yeah. And so if I wasn't actively working on my sobriety or working or with my kids, I was watching Better Call Saul, and that's all I had. That and ice cream for a while. A good show to binge while you're just trying to focus on something other than your misery and discomfort. How long did it take you to finally get to a point where you're able to go through life without needing a lubricant, whether it be alcohol or entertainment, where you were able to just be present?
I still struggle with that, right? What I've come to realize now, working with others and being taught and trying to teach others what's been passed to me, right? Not from an ego perspective, but from a sense of someone passed this on to me and it's my duty to pass it on to somebody else. I still struggle with that, but what I realized was really at the root of anything in a pill, powder, or a liquid that would take me out of myself, take me out of my head, take me out of the present. That's what I needed, right? That's the root. If you shave down the onion all the way down to it, that's what it is, because I'm an alcoholic, and alcohol does that. And alcohol is always on the table. I can always get it. I can always stop at the gas station and get alcohol. And drugs are the same thing, but less prevalent. Drugs, when they come and they go, when they're available, but alcohol was always there, man. And it always took me out of the present. It took me out of my own skin. I became a different person. I was funny. I was gregarious. I was life of the party, best joke teller. All these things that I recognize now are illusions, right? They're part of this ego that doesn't exist, but at its root, it's getting out of the present. I still struggle with that. It's about learning the power of now. I never thought I would ever come to the point of spirituality, but sobriety brought me there, because what I realized is that for me, God and spirituality are not some guy with a white beard up in the clouds. It's the power of being present now in this moment, right? Being right here in the now, not in the future, not in 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days, not in the past, 5 seconds ago or 5 days ago, but living right now here in the future, getting in between two claps. That's God for me. That's spirituality, man. That's getting connected. And alcohol took me away from that, right? Alcohol gave me the sense of relief and comfort and release that I needed, that now I only get from being present in the now. We all have worries, we all have anxieties. I certainly have them, right? But if I'm living in the now, right now in this moment, there is no anxiety, there is no worry, because all I have is right now. So does that mean I'm comfortable in my skin? No, because 99.9% of the time I'm either living in the future or the past. But those rare moments, those glimpses where I'm in the now, that's when I'm comfortable, man, because there is no ego in that moment. You are connected to something bigger than you. It's Christ consciousness, and the rest of life is unconsciousness, like you're asleep. But I have those moments where I'm awake in between that. That's a buzz of sorts, but it's a real buzz. It's a genuine buzz. It's not something that I'm relying on some liquid powder or pill to escape from or to give me that illusion of connection. It's real connection. The honest answer to your question is I still don't feel comfortable in my skin 99% of the time, but that's okay. You know, it's okay now. I don't need to escape that with booze. I don't need a drink. If I'm in an awkward situation or I'm feeling less than, or my self-esteem is gnawing away at me, or my inner critic is telling me what a crappy job I did or a bad day that I'm having, I don't need to run and grab a drink to shut that up. I can connect in the now, in the present, from a place of sobriety and get connected to that to that one, which is, I don't like the word, but that's my God.
And what is the significance of having a God for you?
That's a great question, man. Because when I think about significance, it goes beyond that. Because significance is putting it on a binary of significant or non-significant. It's like a necessity for me now. And that necessity isn't necessarily in the idea of God. That necessity is in the idea of humility. Because one thing that I think a lot of alcoholics, including myself, suffer from is this sense of inflated self, right? This sort of inner narcissism, self-seeking, self-serving behavior. And I certainly suffer from that. I still do, with or without the drink, but I try and work on it and help others and serve others. But what is the significance of a higher power? It's that I humble myself. I was a devout atheist for 48 years, if you count ages 0 through 8, but just devout. Religion is opium of the masses. Everyone's fooling themselves. It was arrogant of me to say what exists and doesn't exist. I'm putting myself at that level that Stephen decides what exists and doesn't exist. And to really approach it from a place of humility and being right-sized, not being self-aggrandizing, but being right-sized in this universe. I'm like a granule of sand on a beach on a planet full of beaches. Who am I to say what exists or doesn't exist? And it's that humility of recognizing that I don't know what God is, but I know that I'm not God. I've gone from atheist to agnostic because I still don't know. I believe, but I don't know. That's a position of real power for me, right? I think that what really turned me off about religion was the crushing certainty that religious people have. They're just so certain. And my religion is uncertainty. I don't know, but I choose to believe in something bigger than myself. The significance of that is that it keeps me right-sized. It keeps me humble. It keeps me in a position where I don't have to control what's happening. Kierkegaard said that man prays not to make God do or not do something, but to change himself. Maybe on my deathbed, somebody comes up to me and says, it's all a joke, it's all a farce, it's all illusion. Well, that's fine, man, because what did that illusion do for me? It got me sober, made me a better dad, made me a better friend, made me a better person to help other people, and to realize the real buzz that I'm looking for is to be of service to this planet, to see all the negative things that are happening in the universe and trying to balance that out by doing something good whenever I'm presented the opportunity, to helping somebody who's in front of me or, listening, whatever it may be, right? But to be of service and to try and help. And so that's the significance of it, I guess, is it keeps me right-sized, right? I'm not God. It's less about whether it's true or false, And it's more about how it shows up in my life and my world and my identity.
What you and I have in common is definitely the atheist thing. That was my identity for a period. Went through a deconstruction. I read the Bible more as an atheist than I did as a Christian, and I was a Christian most of my life. And eventually it became my objective to convince everyone else that there is no God. Yep. That was my goal. And what was humbling was the realization that I thought I was doing everyone a favor by enlightening them. And I thought I was out here saving the world from superstition. But really all I was doing was just wanting to be right. And that is what made me crazy, because it wasn't so much that I was trying to save everyone from this insanity, but in reality, it was just this desire to be right. Yeah. To be right is to be in control. It was tough for me to give up control. I was super controlling, and I know you lived according to the gospel of Stephen and I the gospel of Seth, and we quickly realized where that gets us.
That's it, right? The need to be right is putting the ego first. It's putting the ego before the connection with the higher power, and I have that. I'm a lawyer, right, in court. I'm asking people to believe what I'm saying, to put trust in me, to put credibility in me, to always be right. I grew up in the South, grew up in Tennessee, and I just would bristle at the Bible thumpers. But now I love the Bible. I really do. There's so much beauty in that. The metaphor of Christ, right? When he's crucified, there's two thieves that are crucified next to him. So, you see the iconography and you see the Christ cross where he's crucified and two crosses next to him. Those were two thieves. The future is a thief. The past is a thief. They steal from us. Being in the present, that's where Christ is. And Christ isn't in the past, the present, or the future. Before Abraham, I am. And he doesn't put it in the past tense because there is no time. For your connection to that higher power, that Christ-like consciousness, there's no past, there's no future. There is only the present. There is only now. That is Om. There's some beautiful stories in the Bible, but we got to take ourselves out of it. It's not our mission to be right or to tell others what it means. Everybody gets what they need out of it.
You should approach it with questions. The thing we get into trouble with is the need for answers, an explanation. That's the tough thing about spirituality, is there is no explanation. It's smelling a rose. We've all smelt a rose, but no one can describe it. And that's the thing with spirituality, is if I were to explain to someone how I know there's a God or a creator or whatever, I can't when it comes to explaining, right? Just let go. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to have the knowledge. You're an attorney, so intelligent, and logic is crucial for you. And it can make you crazy trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. And that need for control drives us to try to have an understanding that we'll never get. So just submit.
I would be amazed to hear myself say these things, but submission is a power. It's not a weakness. That notion that in the middle of a storm, rather than just focusing on controlling it, like you said, control, that need to control, you're bringing on all this trouble. You're bringing on all this responsibility that you simply don't have. So you can sit on that boat in the middle of a storm and complain and worry about when the boat's going to capsize and what am I going to do when it capsizes, or how are we going to get to land, or all these things. That's the need to be in control. You don't control that storm. There's nothing you can do about it. But when you take it and you inject humility and say, what can I do? I can help this person who just fell overboard. I can reach my hand out and grab them and bring them back on the ship. It's keeping you humble, and it's also keeping you sane. And we spend so much of our lives worrying about things that are out of our control. Coming back to your great question, that's the significance of God in some senses. I'm not responsible. I don't have it. My job is to show up, and how can I do good in the universe? How can I add to that good energy? But it's just, that need for control it just torments you. It's torture, man. And letting go of that, submitting and letting go of that, that's freedom, man. That's a strength. That's not a weakness.
When I finally submitted, I felt that power. And it took me months into sobriety. I think I was 9 months into sobriety where I finally truly submitted and just finally gave up because I was trying to force my will, force my agenda, and without any substance to help me navigate the frustration of things not working out the way I'm wanting them to. Finally, I said, God, I am tired. Do whatever. I give up. It was in that moment when I finally conceded that all of a sudden I started having this inner peace and acceptance. And it's something that I try to draw on daily. As long as I'm doing the next right thing, as long as I'm in the moment and doing what I believe to be the next right thing, everything works out. I'm not worried about what somebody else thinks or what the future might hold. I just have faith that as long as I'm doing the next right thing, that everything will be okay. And I fully trust my Creator more than I trust myself. When Seth pushes his agenda and his will, I see where that puts me.
It's also, you're fighting reality when you try and control things. You know, the Serenity Prayer is a beautiful prayer, and it's accept the things I cannot change. But true acceptance with a capital A is acceptance that there's something higher at work than me, and letting go, like you said, and feeling that peace. Because you're not trying to control what's happening around you. You're only focusing on the now, because that's all you have at the end of the day is now. The future is a series of nows that haven't happened. The past is a series of nows that are over and done with. And so all you have is now. And so that acceptance with a capital A, it's not only about trusting your Creator and trusting your higher power, it's about making you present. It makes you present. When you say that, Seth, when you hit your knees or reach that point of submission where you say, I give it up to my Creator, you're not only giving up that torture of control, but you're bringing yourself to the now. And that's where you connect to God, right? I do this 0.01% of my day, but 0.01% is good enough for me. I was driving my kids to school the other day and listening to Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and that's where I'm geeking out on this and I'm riffing on this because I'm looking at trees and I'm looking at the stop sign and the way that the sunlight is glistening off the stop sign, and I am in the now. And there's no worries there. There's no anxiety there. There's just the now. And that, to me, is my God. And everything else that separates me from other people and separates me like time separates, that pulls me away from God. Getting rid of those barriers and subtracting them, getting closer to the oneness with everything, the oneness with everyone, no matter who they are, no matter what color skin they have, no matter what country they're from, no matter what political opinions they have. Those are all barriers that we put in between us and other people. For me personally, is what can I do to get rid of this barrier between me and whatever's in front of me? What can I do to get closer to oneness with the universe? And time is a barrier. And if you're in the future or the past, you're putting up those barriers to the present and you're separating yourself from the present.
The Power of Now, incredible book. One thing that stuck out to me when I read it was the idea that every thought that comes through my mind is a passing train. Eckhart Tolle said, you don't have to get on every train that comes through the station. And eventually I started recognizing thoughts as passing trains because I will get on a train and I will ride that train for 2 hours. And before I know it, I'm at a destination that I do not want to be at.
Right.
And
right.
It's usually negative.
Right.
But if I can start focusing on what train do I want to get on, generally I don't get on any train because most of the thoughts that come through my mind are distractions. Or it's my ego trying to pull me away from being present. When I am present, I'm not thinking about Seth. Generally, what comes to mind is other people.
Yep.
That's where I find my higher power is in service, loving other people, thinking of other people.
Really quick, when you're helping other people, you're eliminating that boundary between you and them. Their pain and suffering becomes your pain and suffering, and you help and you balance the universe, number one. But the second thing that it really resonates with me about what you said is that idea of submission, right? This is what we have as alcoholics and our disease, is we have no problem submitting our will and our lives to alcohol. How many times did I drink to a blackout? A blackout is a really scary thing. I had blackouts that lasted hours. I had blackouts that were nights. And that's a really scary thing, is I've given my power to this liquid, to this alcohol. So that's another thing that I kind of laugh at now, is I had no problem giving up my will and power and submitting to alcohol and drugs. And yet when it comes to the idea of God, I'm like, no, I will not submit. I would much rather, at this point, at 50 years old, I would much rather submit and accept and give my will and my life over to the idea of God and the idea of than a bottle of Jack Daniels. It's all loving, all present, all knowing at all times. It's just everywhere. It is. That's another connection that I made in sobriety that I never would have made before, is that you want to talk about really giving yourself over and giving your identity over to something. Addiction, you're doing that. You're doing it on a daily basis, and you're surrendering yourself. What can I put in my hand or down my throat that will take me out of now, that'll get me away from the present? And now I'm running in the other direction. I took a 180, and I'm running to always be in the now and always see what's in front of me. What can I do to help humanity? What can I do to remove the barriers between me and this person, to realize that we're all one and everything's a barrier? What can I do to break down those barriers and just be one, now, present, connected to my higher power, and being of service to my fellow man and woman?
We have an issue with God. We have an issue with turning our life and will over to the care of a God as we understand him. And that's a really hard thing. But for some reason, some shady character at a bar hands us a pill, and we have no problem popping it. Who am I putting my faith in that moment? It's not a creator. It's not a God. It's Seth. The arrogance, like you had mentioned earlier, the confidence that I have in myself. Dishonest, manipulative. When my wife kicked me out of the house, one of my first thoughts was, oh no, now people are going to know that by not believing in God, that you end up in this situation. Yeah. Not the fact that my life was falling apart, that I am really at my bottom, but oh no, now they're going to be right. Mm-hmm. Now, and that's just my ego and pride, and it is insanity.
It's you against them. It's Seth against the people who believe in God. And that's a binary. Talk about a separation. That's not just separation. That's putting a canyon in between yourself and this other group of human beings, and it creates suffering. That separation, it's just torture. It's swallowing the poison pill to kill the other person. They're not sitting around even thinking that about you, but yet you are tormented by that separation and that thought of pride. How are they looking at me? And I'm not judging it in any way. I still do it today. I have to catch myself. But man, I lived 48 years of doing that. Me against the world. And it all comes down to me to the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. And one is living is suffering. There's always suffering in this world. And two is all suffering is a result of attachment. I attach myself to the fact, air quotes, that I am different than these people. They believe in God. I don't believe in God. It's me versus them. And once you separated yourself and you're distancing yourself from God, we can disagree. We can have different political views. We can have different views on religion. We can have different views on whatever, but I am connected to you. We are all one. I don't have to agree with you to see the divinity in you that exists in me. I remember this beautiful story of this woman who started writing letters to this guy on death row that raped and murdered her daughter. He wrote her a letter. This was years after it happened. And he said, the Jesus in me reaches out to the Jesus in you. And can you imagine the resentment and the anger and what this man took from her, took her daughter? And she said she prayed and she struggled with it. And she finally wrote him back and said, the Jesus in me reaches his hand to the Jesus in you. That's beautiful, man. It's not even about us. There's always the divinity inside each and every one of us that can connect. If that woman can connect with the man on some level, I'm not saying they become best friends, but the Jesus in her reaches out to the Jesus in him and they clasp hands and they connect. If she can do that, then I can do that with any human being. Right? You can do that with someone who has a different belief system than you have. You can reach out to them and say, The divinity in me reaches out to the divinity in you. I was that kid on the war games on my computer, and I always picked Russia, right? I was always that antagonist. I lived in that space because it gave me two things. It gave me resentment and anger, which led me to drink and drug. And it gave me that feeling of judgment, that I was judging other people, that I was somehow better than them. It gave me victimhood. We as alcoholics and addicts, we love being the victim. We love what's being done to us and what's happened to us because it fuels our self-pity. Once I feel that self-pity, how am I going to get rid of that? There's a bottle of Jack Daniels. That works just fine for me. How much of our life do we not see people? Do we ignore people? We ignore groups of people. We ignore groups of people based on where they live. We ignore groups of people based on where they are on the street. We ignore groups of people because they're in an alleyway disheveled with a brown bag. And part of that beauty, when have you clothed me, when have you fed me, is seeing that suffering. If someone sees my suffering and puts a hand out, maybe they don't help ultimately, but they connect with God in that moment because the Jesus in me is being connected to by the Jesus in them. It's a beautiful thing.
And that's what it's about for me. If I start my day off thinking, what can I do today to make Seth happy? I'm screwed. It's going to be a rough day and I'm going to blow it. Something's going to go wrong. I'm going to force my will. But if I start my day off just giving it to God, take it. That victim mentality, 100%. A majority of alcoholics end up drinking alone at the bar by ourselves. And that's where I was. All I wanted to do was sit there and drink alone and feel sorry for myself. Hated my job, was unhappy. All these Christians aren't telling me I'm right.
Yep.
And it's driving me nuts because I know I'm right. I wasn't trying to connect with them. Now that I've had a few beers, I'm the smartest person here by far. Even though it's 3:30 in the afternoon and I'm drinking at the VFW by myself. The ego is insane. I like to say I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm no longer ashamed of it. When I thought of doing this podcast, there's a little tinge of somebody's going to form an opinion about me that may not be true because I always start the podcast off saying I'm an alcoholic. But I own it because I'm grateful for it.
It's interesting to me because I didn't really know you during that time. The Seth that I know now, I see you as one of the most estimable characters that I know. The person that I see is constantly helping other people, including this podcast, but not limited to this podcast. I've seen you help people in many environments, in many settings. The estimable acts make you an estimable person, but you're not doing it for pride. You're doing it because it's the next right thing. In helping others and connecting, that to me is God. I see that in you so much. So it's fascinating to me because when I hear you tell that old story about being at the bar by yourself and the separation and the anger and the resentment and the victimhood and the self-pity, that seems like a different person to me. And that's what alcohol and drugs do. They don't make us different people, but they take the darkest parts of us and they give them free rein and they let them run amok. And those parts of me are still there. The darkness and the self-pity and the separation and the anger and all those things, they're still there. But I shine the light on them now, and I know how to give them up. I know how to get help from other human beings, to ask somebody, hey, I'm struggling with this, which is very important to my sobriety. There's no way I could have gotten sober without people like you and people in my life who shared that journey. I don't want to help somebody when I'm wasted. I'm getting my drink on at the bar, or I'm looking for my next score. I have no interest in helping anybody else. It's all about Stephen. It's self-serving, self-seeking behavior, which is the real identifying factor for addiction. What's the antidote to that? Trust God, clean house, help others. And helping others, that's the antidote. That's the connection to God. And for me, and it sounds like for you, is a big part of the connection to sobriety.
Other people is where it's at. Alcoholics are selfish, constitutionally incapable of being honest. The hard thing about getting sober, it's like you're going on a road trip and you just continually throwing trash in your back seat. And getting sober is like slamming on the brakes and all that trash hits you and you start having to dig through it. And you're trying to be present while at the same time concerned about the terrible financial decisions you made, the fact that you're separated from your wife. You're trying to deal with the guilt, shame, and remorse of your past. When alcoholics or addicts get sober, they get such a beautiful understanding of what it's like to be present, because they are in the midst of such chaos, and it's so difficult to figure out how to navigate life living with all the terrible things you've done.
That's the only reason why, for me, not trying to proselytize or preach, but the only person that was going to get me sober was another alcoholic. The only person that was going to connect with me and show me the way and take my hand and show me the way out of that cave was another alcoholic. I've been to therapists since I was 14 years old. I can tell you now, I went through 35 years of drinking and drugging with therapy. And it's not like I didn't address it. I would address the issue with my therapist, but no therapist was going to get me sober. No doctor was going to get me sober. No list of antidepressants or prescriptions for depression or for anxiety, all the things that I've taken, none of that was going to get me sober. The power of one alcoholic sitting and talking to another alcoholic, that's the Christ connection, right? And that's the beauty of it, is that we understand. Like you said, I'm grateful for the disease. I'm grateful that I have that disease, because it gives me that ability for somebody out there who's struggling, no matter who they are. But if they reach out to me, I get it. I understand. I can absolutely understand where you're coming from. And only alcoholics have that, man. Only we can understand the depths of that pit and the sadness and shame and resentment and remorse and anxiety, all of it. We get it. We understand it. When you're at the bottom of that pit and you see that hand come down from somebody who says, I've been where you are, I know a way out.
I was seeing a psychologist, therapist. I was on 7 different medications I had to take daily. Ultimately, who saved my life was a 69-year-old Harley Davidson mechanic who cooked meth in California for 30 years. And that's what's really cool about this thing. I'll get calls from somebody, 5 minutes on the phone with them, and we're connecting in a way where they're no longer feeling isolated, because you just feel like such a screw up. Nobody can understand why in the world you'd be hiding a bottle of whiskey under your driver's seat, right? Who in their right mind wakes up and starts drinking warm beer? Really, that's what makes us double down on our ego and need to be right, because I might be a drunk and a loser, but at least I'm not a Christian. That's what's crazy. That's what it was for me. My life might be falling apart, but at least I don't believe in fairy tales. And that's why I pushed it so hard. It's just the wrong way to approach life. When it came down to it, I had to meet and tell him, hey, I was wrong. I was not a good friend to you. What kind of friend will want to go to coffee with you just so that they can try to strip you of your foundational belief? Why would I want to rob them of this just so that I can be right? That is so selfish.
I have to prevail upon this person to feel the outrage and the anger that I have. It's just torture. I'm tortured, and so I'm going to seek out other tortured people. Like I was talking before, I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to search out other alcoholics. The negativity, you either seek out other negative people or you seek to take positive people and turn them negative, right? You want the world to reflect your insides. Your insides are tortured and negative and depressive and angry. You want the outside to reflect that. I feel chaos inside, so I'm going to create chaos outside. The same person that you're talking about has taught me, seek to be a source and a force for peace and harmony instead of chaos and discord. I was a constant source of chaos and discord, whether it be with my partner, whether it be with my kids, whether it be with my family. Chaos and discord ruled the day. And now when I wake up and I think about intentionality and seek peace and harmony instead of chaos and discord, and if I encounter negative people or angry people, I give them space, peace and tolerance and love, and say, I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. I felt that way too. And there is something else. And if you're willing to try it out, I'm happy to try it out with you.
Mike D last week, in the episode, he doesn't really go into spirituality, but one of the best examples is spirituality is like a favorite song. I talk about my favorite song, you talk about your favorite song, and we can talk about how that makes us feel. It might make us feel nostalgic, or make us think of our wedding, whatever it is. And we can just talk about our favorite songs. But the second you say, my favorite song is Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears, then all of a sudden I'm like, what the hell?
You're putting up barriers right there. Even if you like the song, you're still putting up barriers. If Oops, I Did It Again is your favorite song, you tell me that, I connect with that, oh, it's our favorite song. We're still separating ourselves from others who don't like Britney Spears. Whatever context it's in, you can approach that from two perspectives. One is to make a separation. And that's either, I don't like that song, you're crazy, or it's, I love that song, look at how we're different than everybody else. Or you can approach it from peace, love, tolerance, and acceptance. We all have favorite songs, and we can appreciate them no matter what they are. I'm not only going to connect with you, but I'm going to find ways that we can connect with other people. Whenever I get worked up about something that's happened that's beyond my control, what I'm doing is I'm creating an expectation that it lives according to how I think it should, and that's suffering. Because I put an expectation on it, and now I suffer because of that, because it's not going the way I think it should go. And if you can't change it, then you have to accept it. If you can change it, by all means do so. You don't build up an expectation that reality is going to conform to your desires and your wishes. I mean, you said we all connect to spirituality. I've always connected to God. I just didn't know it. I spent 35 years hating him. And as somebody once told me, you can't hate a God that doesn't exist. Even in my atheism, there was this tension. I'm angry at a God that I also believe doesn't exist. I think you have many different myriad ways of having a connection with God, but everybody does, even if that's a negative connection. Even if somebody's listening to this saying, I think you're full of crap, it's all mumbo jumbo, it's all just illusion, it's still a relationship. You still have a relationship with the concept, so you might as well reach some peace with that, because otherwise you become what I think you and I were, which is that we are on a mission to prove that we're right. We are on a mission to spread that negativity, to spread that toxicity and angst and torture by proving to you that God does not exist. The only other option, and this was my gateway and the time that I took a step towards spirituality instead of away from it, was I was willing to only admit one thing in my early sobriety. I don't want to drink or drug anymore, but I'm not joining a cult. But the one thing that I was willing to accept, and which is the most important thing for anybody to accept if they are even remotely interested in this path, is that I am not God. I can accept that. And if you believe that you are God, then you probably need some form of mental health therapy, because nobody's God. But I was willing to admit that. I am not God, and that was the first step into humility. It was the first time that I just started to shrink a little bit and become right-sized and take life on life's terms instead of me dictating how life was going to be. Instead of me dictating what reality was going to be like and being constantly tortured that it wasn't the way I wanted it to be. I'm not God, and thank God I'm not God, because I wouldn't want the world to live under my rule. It would be a scary thing. There is a power greater than myself, whatever you choose to call that, whatever you choose to understand that as. What you and I share, Seth, is that it's God as we understand him. I build in a little footnote there, a little asterisk that says, even if you don't understand. And I don't. You cannot contain that. And if you could contain it, it would no longer be God to me. If you could put it in a box and describe it with words, if you could give it a history, if you could give it a story that was digestible to humanity and our little minds, that no longer is God to me. Once you try and shrink it, or once you try and freeze it, it's like a moment in time. Once you try and freeze it, it's no longer the thing. It's no longer the experience. I can take a Polaroid of any moment, but it's not the moment, because I can't feel it. I cannot be in that present. It's only a photograph of it. So God as we understand him, even if you don't understand him, even if to you God is something different, not even an entity, but a force, whatever it is, the only requirements that I was taught, which I thoroughly believe in, is that it must be all-knowing, all-present, all-loving at all times. That's it. It's got to be a power greater than ourselves that has all those characteristics. And that's not putting it in a box. You don't have to understand it, but the importance and the significance of the belief is that it keeps me right-sized. It keeps me humble. It keeps me in humility. It keeps me focused on the present moment, on helping other people. That's the biggest importance of it for me. It's very important to me in the way that I live and the way that I breathe and the way that I show up on a daily basis. It kept me sober. It made me a better dad. It made me a better partner. It made me a better son. It made me a better brother, instead of constantly taking what I could from the world and the people around me. Suddenly my focus is on what can I give? Not what can I get, but what can I give?
What can I bring?
Bring.
I can't remember who says it, but he says there is a principle that is a bar against all information, that is proof to any argument, and is guaranteed to keep a person in everlasting ignorance, and that is contempt prior to investigation. That quote is what saved my life. When I talked about God, I had contempt. Mm-hmm. There's freedom in removing contempt. When somebody's talking about their favorite song, and if I have contempt, then I'm going to miss out on an opportunity to be educated or enlightened in some way.
You're missing out on an opportunity to connect. That's the investigation part, is where can I connect to this instead of just pushing it away from you, having contempt. I'm not even going to look at it, no matter what it is, to take it and look at it and say, where can I connect? Do I choose to separate myself from my fellow man and separate myself from connection? Or do I seek to connect with harmony? And so, yes, absolutely, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to challenge your own beliefs, all these things. How can I connect with this rather than how can I instantly separate?
The idea that we need to put everything in a box. And there's comfort in compartmentalizing everything. You and I ultimately were, towards the end there, we're just drinking by ourselves because we put everyone else in boxes. You are not somebody I'm interested in engaging with based on what you had just said, or this idea that I think you fit in this box, and that box to me is not comfortable. For alcoholics, we like to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. We hate discomfort, and we do everything we can to try to be comfortable, not just with drinking or drugs, but also with lying. Mm-hmm. I'll lie as much as I need to ensure that there's no conflict. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I realized that living a lie is super uncomfortable. And the freedom that you get by turning your life and will over to a God. I thought that sounded restricting. Yep. Seemed to me like that sounds terrible.
You're asking me to put it in some mumbo jumbo in the sky. This is ridiculous. I go back to the days of my drinking and drugging. I had no problem doing that. Even if I had some important meeting or something the next day, somebody comes along with a bottle of whiskey and a happy hour and I'm on my fourth drink, I had no problem giving my power over to the substances that I put in my body. We don't want to give up power. We want power and we want control because we think that's what's ultimately going to bring us comfort, is if we can put things in boxes and compartmentalize them like you said. But ultimately what we're doing there, we're not minimizing our anxiety and we aren't bringing ourselves comfort. We're exponentially increasing our suffering and our torture because the world doesn't fit into those boxes. You are putting artificial barriers on things that's not reality. And so by doing that, then you create this tension between your box and what reality is. My box is this, but reality doesn't want to conform to that, and so I suffer. And it's all coming back to suffering, more and more suffering. 35 years of drinking and drugging, that was the only solution to that suffering, was to numb out, to get out of my head through being inebriated or intoxicated or drugged up or whatever. It was about the fact that it took me out of now. It was instant comfort. I was trying to put the world in those boxes and compartmentalize and assemble it into an inventory that was the world according to Stephen. And I was constantly suffering because of that. And the antidote to that suffering was to get drunk or get messed up. And it doesn't have to be that way. Because then you and I know that then you get drunk or you get drugged up and it brings more problems. I love that saying that it was fun. Drinking and drugging is fun. Absolutely great time. And then it becomes fun with problems. And yeah, okay, I got this problem and I got arrested. It's still fun. I'm still looking forward to happy hour on Friday. And then it just became problems. That's getting a bottle of wine on the drive home and drinking by myself. That's having the hidden bottle of whiskey that I just, unless it's there. There might be a situation where I'm good one night. I don't drink one night because I got an early meeting at 7 a.m. If that bottle of whiskey isn't there, I am tormented. Even if I'm not drinking it, I need to know that that whiskey is there, that I'm not out of drugs, right? That I still have a supply in my drawer, even if I'm not using it. And that's insanity, right? I've given over all my life and my will to these substances to the point where their presence or absence dictates how comfortable I can be. I mean, you did not want to meet me when I wasn't able to have a drink or have a drug for multiple days at a time. I mean, just miserable.
The devastation when that's taken away. That feeling when you're looking forward to drinking and something comes up and now you're not able to drink. And you've been looking forward to that for days.
Yeah.
When you talk about functional alcoholic,
Yeah.
even my wife the other night said, yeah, I rarely saw you stumbling. I was very good at being a functional alcoholic. We would make plans to go out for dinner with friends on a Friday night. It always had to be someplace that served alcohol. Mm-hmm. I would have to find somebody that had a bottle. So then, for appearance's sake, only had 2. But in reality, I had a pint of whiskey. Mm-hmm. I just remember that feeling, though, when my wife would call and say, oh, they had to cancel. We're not going to dinner tonight. I had all this worked out. I had this pint. I had this bottle. I'm not drinking tonight. And just the feeling of, this sucks.
There's no way you can enjoy whatever happens that night. You win the lottery. It doesn't matter. I had plans to get drunk. I'm not getting drunk.
I'm going to have to go to bed sober.
Mm-hmm.
What a terrible day.
For people out there who are hopefully identifying with some of this, whether you decide to get sober or not. But the point here, I think, is opening up to connection and hopefully saying something that somebody identifies with that'll get them thinking about it and making connections, whatever that shows up like in their life. For me, it's the same thing. I wouldn't stumble drunk or black out every night, but it was the unpredictability of it, is that I could be life of the party one night and I could get completely hammered and get the most beautiful woman's phone number, have everybody love me, and then go home and polish off a 40 before I go to bed or have a couple whiskeys before I pass out. And that's a beautiful night. Or it could be I go way overboard, I embarrass myself, I get in a fight with somebody, or I have some embarrassing accident happen, or get in a car wreck, whatever it may be, but it's the unpredictability. Because once I start drinking, I can't tell you which one it's going to be. I have no control over that. I've given up my control, and that's part of the disease, right? It's an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind, is once I have a drink, I obsess. I have to keep drinking. The same obsession you're talking about. I had a plan to get drunk and now I don't have that. You're obsessing over the booze. And the allergy of the body is that once it hits my system, there's no such thing as 1 or 2 beers. Those people who have half a glass of wine and leave it at the table and walk away, even to this day, almost 2 years sober, it bothers me. I got to be honest, it bothers me. That's the disease that we have. And I think that's what kept me in my disease for so long, because I just assumed that everybody was that way. No, not everyone's that way. I have a disease that not everyone else has, and it's a unique disease, and thank God for it, because it's taught me a lot in my life, and it's brought me to where I am today. It doesn't mean that it didn't hurt and I didn't suffer. I suffered quite a bit because of my addiction. I hurt a lot of people. But I'm glad that I have this disease because it introduced me to people like you. It gave me opportunities to connect with other people who suffer from the same disease. Thank God for it, but you either have the disease or you don't. I've never had anybody come up to me and say, I think I'm an alcoholic, and be wrong.
The reality is,
Yeah.
I knew the second I had my first couple beers, and ever since then, alcohol had to be somewhere. Hanging out with friends, if I had to choose between going to a movie or drinking, I was drinking. I just knew something was different about me, because the only thing worse than not drinking was having one. You give me one beer and that's all I can have for the night? That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
That's not normal. My wife and I went on a vacation in December, and it was phenomenal. One of the best trips I've ever been on with her, finally, because alcohol was not involved. There wasn't that anxiety of being like, hey, do you mind if I get a beer? I'm not just having that beer. I have a bottle somewhere hidden in the hotel room or something crazy. I think she ordered 2 drinks over the course of that whole week, a total of 2 drinks. I was like, get another one. One of them, she said, oh, I don't like this. It tastes too much like alcohol. It's awesome. Thank God you don't have what I have, because I didn't want to drink it unless it tasted like alcohol.
Well, and those people who say, oh, I'm starting to feel it, I better stop. As soon as I started feeling it, that's when it was literally off to the races. Let's go. A big gateway for me was I wasn't willing to go to the lengths of admitting my disease and coming fully transparent with it. I would always say I'm an alcoholic, but I'm a functional alcoholic. But somebody once said to me, have you ever looked at your relationship with alcohol? And everybody can do that. Your wife can do that. I can do that. You can do that. Anybody, somebody who's maybe had 2 beers in their entire life. Investigate your relationship with alcohol and come to the conclusion that you will. And maybe you say it's not a problem for me. Maybe it works for you. That's fine. I'm not a teetotaler. I'm not here to tell anybody that they can't drink. Even alcoholics, if you want to drink, go ahead. It's not my journey. It's not my job to cure anybody. My job is to put the hand out there so that if somebody does need it, and somebody does investigate their relationship with alcohol and says, this is a pretty negative force in my life, this is causing my problems, to share of myself, so that if you connect with it, perhaps we had something happen to us in the course of our disease that when we reach our hand out and you need it, you reach it out, you grab our hand, and it ends up helping you, or it ends up giving you a new perspective. It's suffering. Let's be honest. Addiction, alcoholism is suffering. It is strapping yourself to a wheel of suffering. And there's a lot of people out there who are on that wheel. I'm not saying I'm fully cured. I'll always have alcoholism. I'll always have it. It's a way of coping with it and dealing with the disease. People live with diabetes. I live with alcoholism. Alcoholism and addiction are a wheel of suffering. And so many people are stuck on that wheel and they don't know a way out. And I'm here to say, for me personally, and I would imagine for most people, the only way out is to see those hands around you. Find someone, maybe not me, maybe not Seth, but find someone whose hand is outstretched and reach out and grab that hand. That is the only hope. If you want to stop that continuous shame and waking up in the morning and pounding your pillow because you're so angry because you did it again and you didn't want to. And how could I do that? I almost killed myself. I almost killed somebody else. Seconds and inches of some horrific tragedy. And I would wake up pounding my pillow because I'm so angry at myself and I can't hit myself. And then by 2 p.m. that day or 5 p.m. that day, definitely by 8 p.m. that day, I've got a drink in my hand. That's insanity. That's the wheel of suffering. So there are so many people out there that are willing to help. You're never alone. That's the one thing that I've learned about addiction and alcoholism is you are never alone. There is always somebody out there who understands. I'm not saying it's going to be a therapist or a doctor. Most of the times it's going to be an addict or an alcoholic, but you're never alone. And if you ever feel that way, look for the hands around you.
Beautifully said. I can tell you're a great litigator. I really thank you for doing this with me. And I thank you also when I was entering sobriety. I think you had 3 or 4 months on me. And I'll never forget you and I going out for armadillos.
That's right.
You were one of those hands for me. You've always been one of those hands. I'm incredibly grateful for you. Thank you for being here and being there for me consistently.
I remember armadillos too, and there's a Buddhist saying that between the teacher and the taught, the lesson lives. So you kept me sober that night, and you probably taught me a lot more than I ever imparted, and you probably helped me a lot more than I helped you, and I appreciate you.
You bet. Love you, buddy.
Love you too.